Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I had just finished my senior year of high school and was getting ready for college in the fall. All through senior year, I worked part-time at a local diner, saving up every penny I could for the things I'd need for my dorm room. By graduation, I had managed to save up enough money to finally go on the shopping spree I've been dreaming about for months. My mom had just finished up a difficult case at work. She's a behavior correctionist for high schoolers, which means she works with the kids who have serious behavioral problems and can be violent toward other students or teachers. It's not an easy job. She's had to learn submission techniques like jujitsu because some of these kids can get aggressive. She's been grabbed, kicked, and even had knives pulled on her. But she's good at what she does and cares about helping these kids turn their lives around. She had just wrapped up this case and decided she deserved a break, so she offered to come shopping with me. I was excited to finally spend the money I'd worked so hard to save, and it would be nice to have her help carrying everything. We went to one of those big box stores and went a little crazy. I picked out a small TV for my dorm room, a nice laptop for my classes, some bedding, a mini fridge, and all sorts of other college essentials. The cart was completely full by the time we made it to the checkout line. The cashier was friendly and helped us load everything back into the cart. After scanning it all, the total came to just under $800, which was exactly what I had saved up. I felt proud watching my mom pay for it all, knowing I had earned every dollar myself. After we finished checking out, I really needed to use the restroom. My mom told me she would wait by the exit with our cart full of stuff while I went to take care of business. I headed off to find the bathroom, leaving my mom sitting on a bench near the exit with our shopping cart right next to her. What happened next, I only heard about later from my mom and the store employees. My mom had been sitting there for maybe 2 minutes when this woman approached her. The woman looked to be in her 40s, well dressed, with styled hair and an attitude that screamed entitlement. The woman thanked my mom for finding her cart and acted like all our shopping belonged to her. My mom was confused and told her that the cart was actually ours. But this woman wasn't backing down. She put her hands on the cart handle like she was claiming it. The woman said that my mom was making a mistake and pointed to the laptop, claiming it was a new computer she had just bought for her little kid. My mom told her that the cart was ours and that her cart must be somewhere else. My mom started to walk away with the cart, but that's when things got crazy. The woman started screaming at the top of her lungs that my mom was stealing her cart and begged people to stop her. She was yelling this loud enough that everyone in the area turned and stared. The nearest cashier looked over to see what was going on and told the woman to calm down because she was mistaken. The cashier explained that they had just checked out the cart and it belonged to my mom. My mom pulled out the receipt to show the woman, thinking that would be it. But instead of apologizing or admitting her mistake, this woman grabbed our cart and started running toward the door with it. My mom chased after her. Thanks to all her training dealing with difficult teenagers, she's in good shape and caught up quickly. She grabbed the woman by the arm and stopped her right at the exit. My mom told her to stop and reminded her that it was our cart and she knew it. That's when the woman pulled out a small can of pepper spray and aimed it at my mom's face. But my mom has dealt with worse situations at work. She's had kids pull knives on her, so pepper spray didn't faze her much. My mom applied pressure to the woman's arm holding the spray and put her in a submission hold, keeping her restrained on the ground. The cashier who had witnessed everything called the police, and my mom kept the woman there until they arrived. When I finally came out of the bathroom about 10 minutes later, I saw police officers taking statements from store employees and customers. There was a woman in handcuffs near the exit screaming about her children and how this was all a misunderstanding. I asked my mom what had happened while I was gone. My mom was sitting on the bench, still catching her breath from the whole ordeal, and told me she would explain everything later. It turns out the woman had been charged with attempted theft and assault for trying to steal our cart and threatening my mom with pepper spray. The store's security cameras had caught the whole thing, so there was no question about what had really happened. The police officer who took our statement said this wasn't the first time they'd dealt with this woman. She had tried similar stunts at other stores in the area, usually targeting people who looked like they might not fight back. We finally made it home with all our purchases, and my mom told me the whole story. Even though it was scary at the time, we had to laugh about how ridiculous the whole situation was. What kind of person sees a complete stranger with a shopping cart and decides to just claim it as their own? So I'm 18 now and still figuring out my life. When it came time to pick what I wanted to study, becoming a zookeeper felt like the obvious choice. The problem was finding a good school. Most colleges around here only offer basic animal science programs, but I wanted something specialized. After months of research, I found this amazing wildlife management school about an hour away by bus. It's expensive and the commute sucks, but they have partnerships with 3 major zoos, and their graduates almost always get hired right after finishing. My aunt has always been supportive of my dreams. When I told her about getting accepted, she was more excited than my parents. For my 18th birthday a few months ago, she surprised me with this incredible backpack. It's red, blue, and purple with this awesome shark mouth design on the front that opens and closes when you unzip it. She explained that it was from some limited collection that only made a few thousand pieces before they stopped production forever. I absolutely love that bag. It's perfectly sized for all my textbooks and my laptop, plus it gets compliments from other students all the time. The shark mouth makes people smile, which is nice because I'm pretty shy and don't make friends easily. So anyway, about a week ago I was on my usual morning bus route to school. I'm a pretty big guy, about 6 feet 3 inches, so I always try to sit in the back where there's more leg room. The bus was maybe half full, which was normal for that time of day. We'd been driving for maybe 30 minutes when the bus stopped at one of the downtown stations. This woman got on and immediately I could tell she was going to be trouble. She had that look, like she was already annoyed about something before she even stepped on board. Because of the whole virus situation, everyone was supposed to keep distance and not sit directly next to strangers. But this woman walked straight to my row and plopped down right next to me. I'm not good with confrontation, so I just put my headphones on and tried to ignore her. Not even 5 minutes later, I felt someone tapping my shoulder. I pulled out one earbud and asked if I could help her. She seemed friendly at first and told me she wanted to know where I got my backpack from. I figured it was just a normal question, so I explained that I got it from the internet as a birthday gift. But something in her expression changed. She got this weird look in her eyes and mentioned that her son had a bag like that. I figured maybe her kid had gotten one around the same time I did. Since they were limited edition, it would make sense that some other families bought them too. I asked when he lost it, thinking I was just being polite. She said it was about a year ago. That didn't make sense at all. I knew for sure these backpacks hadn't been released until late last year, so I told her that was impossible since the bag wasn't even made at that point. I should have just kept my mouth shut. The moment I said that, her whole face changed. She went from fake friendly to absolutely furious in about 2 seconds. She started screaming that she knew I stole it from her son and demanded I give it back immediately, or she'd call the police to have me arrested. She was yelling so loud that everyone on the bus turned to look at us. My face went bright red, and I started feeling sick to my stomach. Even though I knew the bag was definitely mine, hearing someone threaten to call the police on me made me panic. I might be tall, but I'm really sensitive, and it doesn't take much to make me break down. The bus driver must have heard all the screaming because he pulled over at the next stop and came back to our seats. He told the woman that the police had been called and that we would solve this peacefully. Karen got this smug grin on her face like she'd already won. I was terrified. What if somehow they believed her? What if I couldn't prove it was mine? About 10 minutes later, 2 police officers got on the bus. The first one looked tired, like he'd dealt with stuff like this before. He asked what the problem was, and Karen immediately started screaming again about how I was a little brat who stole her son's backpack, and she demanded it back. The officer turned to me and asked if it was true. I swore to him that it wasn't and that the bag was mine. The second officer asked if I had any way to prove it. How do you prove something like that? Then I remembered something and told them I could call my aunt. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called her. When she answered, I asked her to tell me what she gave me for my birthday. She sounded confused but said she gave me a backpack. I asked what color it was, and she described it perfectly as red, blue, and purple with a shark mouth at the front. I thanked her and said I'd explain everything later. Before I hung up, I asked her to send me the photo she took of me opening the present. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed with a picture. There I was, grinning like an idiot, holding up the backpack with the date clearly showing November 15th, 2020. I showed the photo to the officers. Karen looked at the screen and went completely pale. The first officer told her that the photo clearly showed the backpack belonged to me. But instead of apologizing or backing down, Karen completely lost it. She lunged forward and tried to grab my bag right off my shoulders, screaming that she didn't care what some fake photo said because that was her son's bag. She actually managed to get one of the straps before the bus driver jumped into action. He hit the button to close the doors just when she was trying to run off the bus with my backpack. The second officer told her she was under arrest for attempted theft. They handcuffed her right there in the aisle while she kept screaming about how unfair it all was. After they led her off the bus, the driver opened the doors again and we continued on our route. Then almost every single person on that bus came up to me and apologized. This old lady said she was sorry for not speaking up sooner. A businessman gave me his card and said if I ever needed a character witness, he'd remember what happened. Even some teenagers who were sitting up front told me they were glad I didn't let her get away with it. My husband and I were car shopping for our youngest daughter's graduation present. We'd been searching online for weeks trying to find something decent within our budget. My husband works as a mechanic, so we knew we could handle some repairs if needed. That's when we found this ad that seemed too good to be true, a luxury sedan being sold for only about a third of what it was worth according to the Blue Book value. The seller mentioned it had stopped starting suddenly, but everything else about it sounded promising. My husband was immediately interested. He figured if someone was selling a luxury car that cheap, there had to be a simple fix that the owner didn't want to deal with. We decided to drive over and take a look even though it was about an hour away from our house. When we got there, my husband spent about 20 minutes looking under the hood and checking various connections. He spotted a couple of potential issues right away. Nothing too complicated for someone with his experience. The car had brand new tires. The paint was nearly perfect with just a few tiny scratches, and the interior only needed some minor cleaning and maybe one seat repair. Even factoring in the cost of parts and his time, this car was worth way more than what the owner was asking. The previous owner was this really nice woman who explained that her husband had passed away recently and she didn't know anything about cars. When it stopped starting, she just wanted to get rid of it quickly rather than deal with mechanics and repair shops. She seemed relieved that we were genuinely interested and not trying to lowball her even further. Of course, we bought it on the spot. Our youngest was absolutely thrilled when we told her she'd be getting a luxury car for graduation instead of the basic sedan we'd originally planned on. My husband got to work on it the following weekend, and just like he predicted, it was an easier fix than he'd even expected. Some corroded battery connections and a faulty starter relay, total cost of about $40 in parts, and 2 hours of his time. The car ran like a dream after that. A few weeks later, it was time to handle the registration and get new plates. We drove to the Department of Motor Vehicles in the town where we'd bought the car, since that's where all the paperwork needed to be processed. Everything went smoothly inside, and we came out with temporary tags while we waited for the permanent plates to arrive in the mail. My husband was attaching the temporary tags to the license plate area when this woman walked up to us. At first, I didn't pay much attention because I was checking messages on my phone. The woman said, "Excuse me," to get my attention, but I was distracted and just mumbled something back. She said it again, louder this time, so I apologized and asked if she needed something. She said yes, she needed that car. I asked what she meant about my car, and she asked where we had gotten it. I told her we had bought it a few weeks ago. Then she dropped the bombshell and claimed that it was her car. My husband looked up from what he was doing and told her no it wasn't, and to get away from us. But she insisted that it was a car she was going to buy from the owner and accused us of stealing it from her. My husband told her that he had paid the owner what they were asking and nothing was said about her and to leave us alone. This woman was clearly unhinged, but she kept escalating the situation. She claimed that the owner and she had an agreement about the car and that we had somehow forced the previous owner to sell it to us instead. She demanded that we give it back to her right now. She said she had been forced to buy some piece of junk instead and pointed to this beat-up sedan parked a few spaces away that looked like it was held together with duct tape and prayers. She wanted us to take her junk car and give her our car. I was getting really angry at this point and told her to get out of my way before I ran her over, but she refused to move and told us that she had already called the police to report that she had found her stolen car and that they were on their way. I asked if she was completely nuts, because you can't just report a car stolen because you missed your chance to buy it. What this crazy woman didn't know was that we were actually waiting for the previous owner to show up. There had been a mix-up with the title at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we needed to wait to get that sorted out before we could complete the registration process. We were still using the original plates, and the previous owner was coming to pick them up so she could turn them in for a refund. About 5 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot. The previous owner arrived right behind them, which was perfect timing. When the officers got out and started asking who had called them, the previous owner walked over to us looking confused. She hadn't noticed the crazy woman yet. The crazy woman immediately started screaming at the officers about how she had paid for this car, and we had somehow forced the previous owner to give us the title instead. She demanded that we be arrested and that the officers make us hand over the title and car to her right away. One of the officers walked over to us, and I had to grin when I recognized him. It was the son of one of my close friends. He'd grown up with my kids, and I'd known him since he was little. He greeted me by name and asked me to tell him what was going on. I explained that I honestly didn't really know what was happening. I told him we had bought this car a few weeks ago from the previous owner, and while we were waiting for her to show up to get her license plate back, this woman had started screaming at us about stealing the car. I said something about her claiming that she and the owner had some kind of agreement about the car, but the owner had sold it to us instead. I mentioned that now she was demanding we take whatever car she had ended up buying and give her this one. The previous owner went completely white when she finally noticed who was causing all the commotion. She explained that this was exactly why she hadn't sold the car to this woman in the first place. She said the woman was her neighbor and was absolutely insane. She told the officer that the woman had asked about the car when she first decided to sell it, and she had told her she could buy it, but the woman had wanted her to get it running again while still paying the low price she was asking. The previous owner explained that she had told the woman she didn't want to deal with repairs, and that was exactly why the price was so low. If she got it running again, she might just keep it, but she would definitely raise the selling price to at least double what she was asking. She said the woman had called her several times asking if she had gotten it running yet, and she kept telling her no. The woman kept telling her to call when she did, but she had never agreed to hold it for her or anything like that. The officer followed proper procedure and checked all our identification, looked at the bill of sale, checked the previous registration, and ran the vehicle identification number through their system. Everything came back clean and legitimate. The officer said he thought they were done there. He turned to the crazy woman with a stern look and told her that what she had attempted was actually a crime. He explained that she had made a false police report, which was a criminal offense, and that he could arrest her for that. But he said he wasn't going to today because he was sure she was just upset and had made a bad judgment call, so they were going to let it slide. But the woman refused to accept this and insisted that it wasn't a false report because that was her car. The officer told her to stop talking and explained that he could also charge her with attempted car theft, but they were all just going to walk away from this now. The woman refused again and said she wasn't just walking away because this was complete nonsense. She pointed at the previous owner with rage in her eyes and told her that she owed her twice what we had paid for that car. Then she pointed at us and declared that she would get her car back from us. The other officer had clearly heard enough and told her to step over by the police car because they needed to have a serious talk. I handed the license plate over to the previous owner, and our friend in uniform told us to have a nice day. My husband and I decided to leave while the previous owner went inside the Department of Motor Vehicles to finish her business. When we drove away, the crazy woman was still ranting at the second officer about how they were letting us steal her car. About an hour later, the previous owner sent me a text message that made my entire day. She told me that when she came back outside after finishing her paperwork, the entitled woman was sitting in handcuffs in the back of one of the police cars, still yelling about the situation. Apparently, the woman had continued arguing with the officers and had gotten increasingly belligerent until they decided they'd had enough of her behavior. The false police report charge that they had originally been willing to overlook suddenly didn't seem like something they wanted to let slide after all. I'm not worried about any future contact with this entitled woman. We don't live in the town where the Department of Motor Vehicles is located, and we don't live where she and the previous owner live. In a couple of months, the car will be 2 hours away with our daughter at college anyway. The crazy woman doesn't know our names, and the previous owner doesn't know where we live, so we're completely safe from any future harassment. Our daughter absolutely loves her graduation present. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.